Have you ever unboxed a brand new $500 laptop that practically screamed massive numbers on the box, only to start using it and realize, wow, this actually feels terrible? I mean, the fans are screaming, the screen looks like a foggy morning, and the trackpad is basically fighting your every move. It's wild, right? This is the budget laptop illusion, and it boils down to one simple, unavoidable truth. Massive specs on paper very often turn into a really frustrating daily reality.
So, this brings up the ultimate question, one that kind of challenges everything we've been taught about buying tech. If a $500 Windows laptop has literally double the RAM of a similarly priced Apple machine, why does the Apple one almost always feel so much better to use? To really get to the bottom of this, we are pitting the MacBook Neo directly against a couple of wildly popular budget Windows machines, specifically the Acer Aspire Lite Gen 2 and the Asus Vivobook Go 14. We're putting that whole spec sheet mentality to the ultimate test against, well, reality.
Which brings us to the first part of this whole illusion, the spec sheet trap. Now, that $440 to $640 price segment, it is an absolute battleground. And honestly, to win your hard-earned cash, manufacturers are setting a trap built entirely out of numbers. The immediate hook? Massive memory, 16 gigabytes to be exact. Laptops like the Asus Vivobook are throwing an impressive 16 gigs of RAM at you right out of the box in this budget tier. And then you compare that to the base MacBook Neo, which is notoriously stuck at 8 gigs. I mean, on paper, it's an absolute crush, right? Windows wins hands down. But let's pause and look at where the budget for that extra RAM actually came from. Because the moment you pull these laptops out of their boxes, the illusion totally shatters. See, the Mac delivers this really premium, solid metal chassis. But to afford shoving 16 gigs of RAM into those Windows competitors, they had to compromise heavily on build quality. We're talking entirely plastic frames. Like if you type just slightly hard on the Acer, the whole keyboard deck flexes inward. Bump the desk, the screen is gonna wobble like crazy. The specs are high, sure, but the physical shell holding them feels, well, incredibly cheap.
And that leads us perfectly into the tactile reality. Touch and vision. This is where we need to stop obsessing over silicon chips and start focusing on what I call the experience metrics. You know, the actual parts of the laptop you physically interact with every single day.
Arguably, the most crucial difference is the thing you're staring at all day long. The MacBook Neo gives you this super crisp display pushing 500 nits of brightness, whereas these budget Windows laptops, they're generally stuck at standard 1080p and a really dim 250 nits. And listen, this isn't just some boring numbers game. This is a visceral daily experience. 500 nits means you can comfortably work near a bright cafe window. 250 nits means you're just squinting at a faded gray screen where all the colors look completely washed out.
Then, oh man, we have the trackpad. Just picture our stick figure friend here, intensely pressing the top of a budget Windows trackpad, getting absolutely zero response. These laptops use what's called a diving board mechanism. That means they only actually click if you press at the very bottom. Try clicking near the top and it literally feels like pressing your finger into a brick. Meanwhile, the Mac uses a massive haptic surface. You can click effortlessly anywhere on it and you get the exact same satisfying tactile response. It's a game changer. Moving on to real-world performance truths. Surely you're thinking, those big numbers on the Windows side have to win out when it's time to actually get to work, right? Well, let's demystify how these slightly older generation chips handle heavy, daily workflows.
So we put both platforms through a massive stress test, opening an Excel file with 800,000 rows of data. And fascinatingly, the Mac actually stutters just a tiny bit when scrolling, mostly because of some software optimization quirks. But when it comes to the heavy lifting, like instantly generating complex pivot tables, both the 8GB Mac and the 16GB Windows machines just power right through without breaking a sweat. So for your average daily student or office tasks, that processing gap, it's practically invisible.
But, and this is a big but, there are some really surprising software hurdles on the budget Windows side. A community member pointed this out about video editing in DaVinci Resolve, saying, on Windows, you have to spend 99 cents on the Microsoft Store to buy the H.265 codec so the machine can even read the video. Now, okay, 99 cents is a tiny fee, but it's a massively frustrating roadblock, especially when it just doesn't exist on the Mac, which imports and scrubs those exact same files natively straight out of the box.
And here is another hidden reality, perfectly captured by someone else in the community. They noted, battery life isn't equal. Plus, just unplug the charger and you'll see their true colors immediately. This is huge. A lot of budget Windows laptops will massively throttle their performance to save battery the absolute second you unplug them from the wall. So your snappy laptop suddenly feels sluggish just because you decided to move from your desk to the couch. All right, let's talk about the trade-offs: ports, storage, and battery. To be entirely fair and impartial here, the Mac is far from perfect. There are some genuine, undeniable advantages to picking up a Windows laptop in this specific price range.
If we look at real-world battery life under actual load, the older Intel chip inside the Acer drains pretty quickly, topping out at around 3.5 hours. But the AMD Ryzen-powered Asus, it actually matches the Mac perfectly, giving you a really solid 5 hours of intensive use. So good battery life absolutely does exist in the budget Windows space. You just kind of have to know exactly which processor you're looking for.
But where Windows truly, undeniably wins is connectivity and storage. Just imagine our stick figure student up there, sweating in front of the class, tangled in a web of dongles just trying to connect their Mac to a standard projector. It's a nightmare. Plus, the base Mac is stubbornly stuck at a measly 256 gigs of storage, whereas laptops like the Asus, they're offering 512 gigs standard. And if you try to upgrade the Mac's storage through Apple, yeah, the price skyrockets and ruins its budget value completely. Windows machines give you the ports and the space you actually need. No crazy adapters required. So let's get to the final verdict. We've gone over the plastic wobble, the dim screens, the impressive RAM, and the missing ports. Now let's simplify this entire analysis down into a clean, actionable framework so you know exactly what to look out for.
The biggest takeaway from all of this data is actually incredibly simple. Don't just buy a spec sheet, buy the everyday experience. Look, having 16 gigs of RAM is fantastic, for sure, but if you have to stare at a faded, washed-out screen and physically fight a stiff trackpad every single time you open the lid, that extra memory really isn't going to make you happy. Prioritizing everyday touch points yields a far better, far less frustrating daily experience than simply chasing raw numbers. Which leaves us with one massive, lingering question for the future. Will PC makers finally realize that the physical experience matters the most and actually start prioritizing high-quality screens and responsive trackpads in their budget models? Or are they just going to keep selling us invisible specs that we can't even feel? Keep looking past the spec sheet, and I'll see you next time.
If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell to the latest update from my channel. Thank you for watching till the end, and see you in the next video.